the city in the year 1995, things were a bit different. Design wasn't perceived the way it is perceived today. And I'm sure that as design professionals, you must have also experienced the similar challenges when an institution like the NID was the only institution in the country. And people like you were considered a very different breed, and people didn't know where you would fit into inside the industry. And similarly, when I came into the city, I didn't know where to fit into. But yes, it's very important to follow one's own dream. So I think it's very important that at times in your life, one has to say no to a couple of things if you truly want to believe in your dreams. So I think believing in the self is very, very important. And that's the first step. Here was an opportunity for me where I felt, the city had immense gems and jewelry and the know-how was available there. But there's more of, the design came from those catalogs and things. I said, why not have designers contribute now? So today when I'm sitting here, I educated myself in fashion. I was teaching at the South Delhi Polytech there in Delhi. And I when moved here, I said, okay, why not jewelry? And the idea was, it was probably just being open-minded, because at times it's important to reinvent yourself for what your people want, what the city wants, and what would be actually viable. So that was important. And I became known for my jewelry design programs that I was offering, and a 3-month to a 4-year degree pathway that got created in this whole journey of 20 years. So that's how it was very important to look at what empowers one, the self, and what empowers the other. I feel that the whole co-creation that I did with Shopper Stop really nurtured a lot of young people, and we created some new courses which were truly required at that point of time, because the retail industry was booming. Malls were coming up. They were looking for people who knew the retail business from a delight point of view. They could look at people from like visual merchandising, it's known as silent selling. So these were kind of collaborations that I did. How did we evolve? So when we evolve, it's, when you work towards your own dream, you're fulfilling other people's dream, you're looking at more opportunities. One is looking at providing more and more solutions. And then there is a whole collaborative environment to work with. The evolution is inevitable. Probably we all have a similar dream, and that's why we are together. So let's live that dream together. It's not about you doing a job. It's not about you taking employment for just a livelihood. Your employment is 8 hours of your day. That's your life. And you need to fulfill in your big dream in those 8 hours. So 8 hours is our rest time, 8 hours is our family time, and 8 hours is our professional time when we are fulfilling our dreams and how we are manifesting it in the world. So it's very important to have distinguished that big dream and see how our vision gets shaped up. So vision is all about discovery. You have to constantly throw yourself into situations which are going to challenge you. You've got to increase your bandwidth. The bandwidth, why I say, is that if there are not enough challenges, throw these challenges to yourself and create that, and be constantly on that, journey of discovery. And that's when the vision grows. And with the vision, if you don't have the values is like a strainer, all the things which are not wanted will stay back in the strainer. Right. And only the things that are required will actually move out. So you have these forwarding beliefs, right? We have beliefs which are both limiting and forwarding. So if you can look at your beliefs that are forwarding your intent and put them into your value system and just take actions alongside. So that will be meaningful in terms of how you can live a life of values. So then again, what comes important is purpose. So if the purpose is again not clear, why are we doing this? The who, when, why, what, where, these are certain questions you have to answer to yourself. What is the objective that you want to fulfill? What is the purpose for this work? And if one can actually distinguish that ongoingly, I think it's an inquiry, and one has to constantly be into that stage of inquiry. Now, if you've been able to do all this, yes, do write your mission. Create certain pathways. And in this whole process, you will have to look at certain short-term and long-term goals. I somewhere felt that in the year 2012, I was in a state where my goals were not in place. I went through a major breakdown. And that's the point of time when I had a mentor in my life. My mentor is a media entrepreneur, and she's a media icon in the United States. Her name is Geraldine Levon. She's the lady, she was the one who founded the Oxygen Media along with Oprah Winfrey.
I see.
And when she came into my life, and for 5 days we were together on the Global Ambassadors Program, which was sponsored by Bank of America and the Vital Voices Global Partnerships. That's when she again realigned me to actually put my short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals together. And I feel a mentor is is very important in your life, because you have to have somebody whom you can talk to, constantly revisit your purpose, your mission, your goals together. And goals is all about creating these milestones. So yes, while you are having goals, you will go through breakdowns as well. And breakdowns is a part of the journey. So anybody who's seeing that failure should not come in, I'm sorry, failures, whether you like it or not, they are going to be coming alongside. So the beauty is in if you can create a plan where you have calculated failures, I think one is at a best place to. Otherwise, you definitely can have a different path then. So not to be fearful of failure. So I think probably design has, design will teach you that, that at times you've been so passionate about your design, your idea, but you've seen that it has just not worked and people have not accepted it. So don't be disheartened. There's a learning attached to it. So I think at every stage there's a learning, and one should be open to it. So look at your targets. These are certain measures that you can put. So be very smart about it, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and be time-bound, right? So if you can look at these couple of measures, it might be helpful for you. And then again, I say, keep your attention on your intention. Because the moment you've done it all, right? You've gone through all the stages. But if you've lost your attention on your intention, that's where the gap is. And today the world is going, research is saying that people are going through this major, this is alongside COVID, it's a universal crisis that the world is going through, which is people are losing out on focus.
Right.
And people are being overwhelmed. They're feeling the inability, where we are talking about design ability, right? So if you feel that you're not able right now, get into design ability and get into the focus. So maybe that could be a new start for you. So all the onus goes completely to Bhargav sir to take on these courses with us.
No, it's very well connected. You see, when I see the arch pyramid of research, business, design, and then the mission of, say, empowering, co-creating, evolving, and then when we fill it up with these little details, it just leads you to the path of design culture. And if this is the way to infuse it into the aspiring design students, not just students, even mentors, or just it becomes a way of life. And I think this is a very inspirational dialogue. I mean, I would really wish you please go on for a while and
thank you,
tell
sir.
us a little more. Yeah.
So, again, having your attention on your intention is very key. And I strongly feel delight is a word that I love, And I say, if it does not bring delight, then it's not design. Because, there is everything in it, right? You've done everything about it. But at the end, it has to actually arouse your senses. It has to bring that emotional connect. The emotional connect only comes with the delight aspect of it. So remember that if your design is not bringing delight, there are few people who might see the mechanics of it and get delighted. The few will see the form of it and get delighted. The few will look at the beauty in it. The few will look at the process that you have used in creating it. So delight can be at various levels. So that is what one needs to constantly look at, how to bring in that delight factor inside the whole design process. So
Yeah.
the importance is that the dream has to deliver. If the dream does not deliver, what is it? It's illusion. So how do we keep our senses energized? How do we keep them alive? Now, if our senses are alive, can we only be sensitive? Now, if sensitivity is important for design, how do we nurture this sensitivity? Now, if we're talking about empathy, empathy is just not a word. Empathy has a deeper level of work to be done with it. 10 years of research has gone into looking at who our learners are going to be, right? Is everybody, do you have an aptitude for design? Is design meant for everybody? Or is design meant for a few people who are keen in a particular way of thinking and doing? If you are not, we have Bhargav sir there for us, who will take you through the journey of creating your design ability so that you can take up a career in design. So if you are at a school level or at a college level, or you have taken on education in some other path or stream because your father said, first do your graduation before you can think of design. Design is, it's a fancy career, or maybe, you might have heard certain things like this, right? And they see that there are not enough possibilities there. But yes, today the Western world has made the most of design and design thinking. And as a nation today, we have an opportunity to look at how design can actually transform the way our country is operating today, how governance can really look at design, how our businesses can look at design leadership. There has to be a designer in every wing, I feel, because designers think differently and they bring great value. When we are looking at our learners, we have asked them to create a portfolio of their own abilities. Now, this is not a portfolio that you go to a coaching institution and you get to learn a couple of sheets on sketching to 3D to orthographic to some, product making and put in a portfolio. No, we're not talking about this, because this is not what will make you a designer. What will make you a designer is your own abilities first. So you create your own portfolio the way you want it, right? What expresses you fully as a human being. And then you can share it with us. And we would just give you our feedback, because there's nothing right or wrong, right? What is important is that we want to know you more and more before we have you in with us. So that's where we call it the portfolio of abilities. Now, another stage is the psychological endowments for design. Now, as a human being, again, we said that, each one of us has nurtured, we come from different backgrounds, we have our different learnings, and we are very interested in those learnings of yours. So what are these endowments that you have with you? We would like to nurture them to the best so that you can then take it up and you can become designers with that distinct ability to become change makers. So that's where, you can appear for the psychological endowments and see that, how this can be shared with us. Similarly, on the other hand, we have the comprehensive awareness, thinking, articulation ability that you have. So if you look at how do you comprehend, are you aware enough? Are you thinking enough? Are you articulate enough? So you've got to create certain amazing videos. Here comes again a statement of purpose. As we talked about, your purpose is very, very important. What do you want to build? What do you want to do? And if we are interested in you. So that's why we want all these things from you. And then we want to have an interaction with you. We want to hear you out. We want to hear your ideas, because design is all about ideas. And if we have the best of ideas here, do you think we're going to be lacking anywhere? No, not at all. We are together going to move with velocity. India, people say we don't have thinkers here. We don't have innovators here. Sorry, that's not true. The truth is that we are a land of innovators. And the only thing is we've been very generous and giving it out, we've not patented it. We've not done our, those IP, the intellectual property, the ownership of it. We've been generous. We've given it out to the world and said, okay, come on, we've got the idea. Take it. you nurture it and build it further. So it's very interesting that, yes, now we have an opportunity that we can also do it, because if that is being valued in the world, why not show it that way as well? So the whole idea is to now, again, start with the self. So that's what the intent of the entrance exam
is. Design thinking is not something just which is seriously working with design. It's a lot of the thinking is a much larger element here. And in my own words, and without repeating what others might have said on design thinking or design culture or design skill sets, whatever, I just wanted to give you 5 points to everyone as to how I would want to set the context right, so that when I talk about sustainable entrepreneurship or conscious capitalism, we understand where the core values are and where you should not deviate. First and foremost, as a designer, as all of you are designers and creative people, and I'm not one of them, but if you start to create a product and it's beautiful, it's colors are great, the touch is good, the feel is good, but if it's not marketable or sellable, if it's not usable, if it's not machine washable, if it's not price sensitive to the competition of a similar looking product, it doesn't work. So as an entrepreneur, what I suggest, and this is my first statement on design thinking, is as designers, you have to think backwards. You have to think consumer, end user first. You need to have multi-dimensional stories, emotional connect. There should be psychological connect. There should be virtual connect. You have to understand that your branding and positioning and marketing is very critical. So you have to have multi-dimensional strengths that are needed. Secondly, the fourth point is, when you try to do something, some design thinking, some project, some design, you will always not succeed. There will be roadblocks. There will be challenges. You should always be ready to change. You should always be ready to start over. You should always, on what we call as pivoting. It's very, very important that if your design thinking or your entrepreneurship that you want to intend to do with your design abilities or your skill sets, if it's not reaching where it's reaching, you might have to reboot, you might have to restart. And that's the fourth thing. Unless you are an open-ended, open-minded person and you have a team of right people with you, you will never be able to scale up beyond a point. And again, the impact, why I'm telling you all these 4 or 5 points is, while you can do a great business, you can buy, you can sell, you can create, you can make money and survive. But if you have to become a sustainable entrepreneur, if you have to create an impact which is larger than what you are, you really have to have these 4 or 5 abilities, in my opinion, that are very, very critical. So financial and business sense and cash flow are very, very important. That's one thing. Second is, of course, environmental. See, the environmental impact, the environmental consciousness that is required for a product, and the impact of environment on not only the product that you're creating, but also the environment that you are creating the product in, the factory, the studio, your marketing tools, your travel, etc., etc. It should all have a minimalistic environmental impact, and that's where conscious capitalism defines itself, because your impact on environment should be minimalistic, without not being profitable or whatever. Last but not the least, if you are wanting to be a socially sustainable entrepreneur, and you have to be a conscious, the society at large, the skill sets of the society, the impact on the society, the working environment of your people, the working environment that you have created, your responsible behavior towards local laws and compliances, all that, your things are very, very important. Everyone knows of a great example like Tata's. Tata's, for everyone's sake, I don't want to repeat, they're great sustainable, and they have a non-profit, they have for-profit, they use eco-friendly stuff, they're profitable by a large extent, and they are responsible towards their teams and staffs, and then it's a very corporate structure, and they all contribute. The best example in India that one can have. But I mean, I would like to give an example something that's very close by, from Jaipur, and that's Anoki. Having worked with John and Faith and Archana, from the 70s onwards, to take organic dyeing, block printing, to empower women, to have an environment which is open, free, nature friendly, to now do organic farming and have the cafe, and not compromising on the quality, whether other people were making or duplicating what they were doing. The fact that something has to be a perfect product is what they did, and that's something that's a must learn, and that knowledge and that ability, which check profitable environment and your team and your staff and social responsibility, are all getting clicked right here in Jaipur. And there are many other examples. Technology will evolve at a pace that you and I cannot imagine, but designing, environment, biodegradability, sustainability, all these are tools, and the origins of craft, color, culture, understanding of all that is very much required. Technologists cannot rule the world. Technologists will only enable the world. The creators, the creative people like you and your students or the faculty is where the future lies. Again, a story that I'd like to share. Pune-based 4 students came to me about 2-3 years ago, and they said, we want to do a social media app. I said, are you out of your mind? There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, and I can come 20 more. Because sir, ours is different. I said, okay. So we just want you to be a mentor. I said, fine. I said, and in the last 2.5 years, of course, COVID hit and I was mentoring them. They have finally created an app. Our kids or, have multiple Insta accounts. They have multiple Facebook accounts. You and I are friends, but we are working in a corporate, and we don't want, and every corporate that hires anyone, they see all your social media first. So everything is open. So once you're out on Facebook or any other social media, you're out. Your profile, who are you following, what are you liking, what are you not liking, what are you saying about religion, craft, culture, whatever. So all that has become, so they have created a social media platform where you can have in one account 10 different, 12, 20 different accounts. So where you can put your sari wala photo here, business suit wala photo here. You can choose who is your midnight friend to be on this group, your college friends on these groups, the school friends. They have created and they have incorporated anything. So you can delete messages, you can delete pictures, even endlessly after what Telegram and other people do, or Snapchat. They have created at least 100 different variants into this, and they have launched it, and it's called Pigtail. And you can Google them, and they're available on Google Play Store. Their iOS is getting developed, and they will be launched shortly. And they did a huge event last month, PINK CITDESIGN. And innovative ideas, something that already exists, but the only thing I changed in the last 3 months before they launched on Google Play Store is the UI and UX. When I want to be with, or I want to be in a group my kids are, I have to have a different feel, color, look. There's an age difference, there's a gender difference, there's societal differences, our upbringing, our feel and moods keep changing. So their UI, so they had to hire a new UI UX person from someone who done something from Parsons or whatever. And the duo team, 2 girls, actually changed the mode, and the mood boards that you get in each and every profile is totally different. So if you go on an app, or if you go into a store and you don't find the environment presentable or likable, you and I will walk out, people will walk out. Same as for online. So if you go on, and if it's not easy to search or find what you're looking for, it doesn't work. So technology is an enabler. Ultimately, what sells is, of course, the product, which you all will create, or I will create, or all of us will create. And also, how does it feel and look, and what does it how does it help me change my temperament and mood, and how do I get associated with this and connected with it at multiple levels? I really feel the time is to grow multifold, manifold, and scale. And that is where there is synergy between angel investment or VC funding and art and design and culture.
Somebody has very nicely said that the design is a journey of discovery. Yeah? So today, what I will do is I will share a bit about my journey as an industrial designer, as a creative leader, and as a designpreneur. Three pillars of learning, which I call. and I'm going to share that experience, as part of my creative leadership. But the key part is that I draw inspiration from this. I mean, this whole thing, this whole ethos of the rural stepping into the urban, the street stepping into the the defined corporate world, all those the opposites is what really interests me. So this tree kind of represents the ethos by which we were kind of taught design to stay anchored at one end, but at the other end just go out and explore the skies. I was actually influenced by this great designer, thinker, teacher, Victor Papanek, and his book Design for the Real World. And the final product was this very pocket-friendly product that was stable to use and convenient to use by people with poor eyesight. I kind of aptly named it Sparsh in those days. I mean, we went to people's houses and we found our coolers kind of, do you have a cooler? Yes, we have a cooler. Where's your cooler? It's in the, that's one of our coolers, which we had designed, winter. And we found it in the balcony. And there were people who had pushed our coolers into, attics and under the bed and, all kind of places. So we got talking to people, and what people told us is very interesting. And they said that, "Nahi, wo thoda sa na space ka problem aata hai ghar mein." We have a little problem of space. I just use Hindi because that's how people say it. And we have a little problem of space in the house. And that is why we kind of push it out. And since it's out anyway, we might as well use it for drying clothes. So we took this opportunity and we took this, what we called it internally as the 1 square foot challenge. Yeah, 1 square foot challenge. We built we re-engineered and completely reconfigured the cooler and built it on a tile of 1 feet by 1 feet. We thought, our house has a tile of 1 feet by 1 feet, and that should become our foundation for actually creating this cooler. And that's how Diet was born. Diet has actually went on to create history for this company. So this is the latest version of the Diet series. And this kind of helped us make sure that we kind of stayed ahead of the competition. So the competition was always, kind of eat at your feet and kind of pull you back. But I think if you keep coming up with newer products and so on. And lately, what we have also seen is in the business ecosystem, there has been a mushrooming of startup enterprises, garage inventors, sometimes what we call them, innovators, and so on. So what is important is how adaptive is your approach to addressing these new challenges, challenges which technology kind of throws up at you, and what business ecosystem throws up at you. We made these little paper boats, which kind of floated down the streams as the water kind of poured down. So Paperboat is a brand, which I worked with, which was born out of these very simple memories. I don't know if you are a fan of Jagjit.
I have, sir. I've interacted with the product.
You have interacted with the product, and probably some of you might have used this product, right? So if you're a fan of Jagjit Singh's ghazals and wo kagaz ki kashti, wo barish ka pani, that kind of takes you back to those days, right? Memories.
Yeah.
And when we began work with the team, Paperboat, team, they were not called Paperboat those days, and it was a startup. The startup was called Hector Beverages. Basically, there were 4 people, one bungalow in a small little bungalow in Gurgaon, and a dog. The name of the dog was Hector, hence Hector Beverages, right? So that's how the story kind of began. And what Paperboat is basically it's a memory drink product, which is completely based on the value that design brings to the product. So whether it is the whole friendly feel of the shape, whether it is about the illustrations, whether it is about the easy to open cap, which was the first time. I don't know why all those toothpaste I struggled with all these years, never thought of this, but it was a very simple thing to do. Painful for a startup, but for a corporation, for one of those mega corporations which sell us toothpaste, it's a very simple thing to do, but they never did it all these years. And so all these actually went on to contribute to the design. Design thinking also contributed to the way the product lineup, which when I say product, it means the ingredient which went inside each of these packs, actually, to come up with what is the next. What is the story? What is the memory which people are willing to look for? And that's how the various the various recipes actually came about. And Paperboard actually spends, you'll be surprised, close to zero on advertisements. You'll never see a Paperboard advertisement come in your print newspaper or something like that. Rarely, if at all. Yeah, the brand actually draws a lot of value that design brings to this entire range. Yeah, so in a limited span of a few years, 5 or 6 or 7 years now, Paperboard has actually risen to be one of the top 10 buzziest brands to actually have come out of the ecosystem. They, in some of the sectors, they have given the likes of the Coca-Colas and the Pepsis, and such top-end beverage manufacturers run for their money. Yeah, so it's a good example of how simple design approach, how an adaptive design approach to co-creatively work with client teams with agility. Yeah, also I must say agility, which means you have to, and that's very important when you are working with startups, because you have to kind of pace yourself with how the startup is progressing, in their life cycle, in their various milestones. But at the same time, and bringing delight to customers, investors, because a startup where the investor is not delighted, believe me, is a dead startup. Yeah, and it's important to make sure that the investors get their money, and what you do eventually feeds to that, and all other stakeholders who are involved, including the people who eventually go on to produce such wonderful products. Yeah, so Paperboard is a good example of how design feeds into design, as well as business leadership. Yeah, for enterprises. Series called the Platinum Lab. Now, what does the Platinum Lab do is it focuses on understanding the problems of senior citizens. And we have been working with several institutes. We have worked with NID students. We have worked with MIT students. We are right now working with V School students. We'll be most happy to work with Art School of Design students if you are interested in this field, to come up with solutions. Right now, we have 8 project areas identified, and each of them is kind of progressing in a very serious manner as solutions. So designers don't have to, as a consulting firm, we figured that we don't really have to only work on things which are being given out to us and servicing somebody for their solutions, but we can actually, as I said, spot the opportunities in an area and work on it. So this has been going on with us for about 4 or 5 years now, and we kind of are looking forward to make sure that we take this to some kind of a fruition where it really helps people in the senior bracket. We also, if you ever visit our studio, our campus here, we call it a campus because it's a mini set of 2 buildings, mini campus of 2 buildings. You will see a lot of repurposed furniture. And I'm just showing you one example of all the Macintosh cabinets, which have been the Apple cabinets, which have been repurposed as benches. Yeah. So as designers, we have to constantly discover these things where probably we can, we can repurpose something, we can recycle something, we can reuse something. That's the attitude which you kind of build in. Nobody's going to tell you. No client ever, nobody who ever gives you a job is going to come and say, please redesign something which is recyclable, reusable, repurposable. That's something which is there inside you. It's your DNA.
The design education and design aspects started coming during not British Raj, but like if you take the first design school is which is in Calcutta, set up by Rabindranath Tagore, which was in 20s or so. So the art started coming up that time in a industrial form of developing newer products or so, and afterwards the independent India and the way it has been developed in the post what you call independence era, where that all big public sectors crafts were also nurtured, and design was, NID came during that time, and then the global era which we are in, and design is really booming because it is directly connected. So this is the link of this cultural aspect, how it has traveled last couple of, from 1,000 years ago to today's scenario. It has changed, and there is a lot of wealth which this country has, and that's why I think this culture and design which you're talking about, the culture does change with technologies and other things. There are influences in culture. Tradition remains the constant. Tradition is something which goes from generation to generation to generation. Those are the practices which is in tradition. But culture has influence of technology. Culture has influence of cults. Culture has influence of different countries and other aspects, the way it is been done. And I think that way, I would say that we have a very strong cultural rooted past with lots of influences, which has really made this creative industry. And when we say creative industry is one which we are dealing with design, and there is a creative culture industry. Now, this creative culture industry, which talks about actually in this country, creative culture industry is the second highest employer after agriculture, the craft industry. Any pandemic in the world has changed the direction of development. Over the years, whether either the wars have changed the direction of development or the pandemics, and there are certain forces which come on humanities, and humanities, they have to really think differently when such pressure comes in. The handicrafts. Now, handicrafts or the creative culture industry, which we are talking about, handloom, handicrafts, whatever things, I would say that this pandemic somewhere is influenced on the migration which was happening, that everybody was looking jobs in the city earlier, and there was a huge skilled force who were involved in handlooms, who were involved in wood carving or stone carving, and they were not finding the meaning in their work, what their forefathers were doing, and they shifted to the cities to either work in the hotel or auto rickshaw driving or taxi driving, and the task for surviving or livelihood were far away from what skills they had in their hands. And when this pandemic lockdown has happened, a lot of reverse migration happened. People have gone back in their places, and I think there the policymaker and the designer has a humongous opportunity of reviving the craft in handloom and handicrafts. And that is the way I think the e-marketing, we all have become very savvy on e-commerce, whether it is Amazon or whether it is Flipkart or all. We all have learned and we all have started taking decisions which we never thought that we will do that. And this e-marketing, design intervention, wherever you are sitting, you can work. This is the new norms which are going to come in. You don't have to be in the city to work. You can have your social enterprise in rural India, work with the craftspeople, have a business. So this is the new breed of designers are going to come, that they can operate wherever they are. So this is a huge opportunity in our country.
Where do you feel that education can bring that role? What are the new practices that needs to be taken up by the new emerging design departments within universities? What are the few key things that has to be taken in account for any design institution to be a voice for design? I know, and not a polytechnic level education.
A very deep question. In fact, there is a mindset also, very strong mindset is connected with what you're talking about. Mass production is an outcome of second industrial revolution, which was somewhere around 1870 or so, when the electric power was developed actually, and textile mills and assembly line and all those things started coming in. Concept of linear economy. Linear economy means you take the material from the planet, process it, make it, use it, throw it. And after throwing it, it is not getting dissolved in the nature, and that is what the problem which is happening everywhere. So people started looking into circular economy. And circular economy is that you use the material which you take, process it, and use it, and after use it, reuse it and recycle it. So this is the major challenge which is going to come to the designers in future and technocrats in the future, and whoever are not understanding design, because design is connected with the culture, and in our culture and tradition, it followed the natural cycle, and the circular economy was very strongly embedded in our culture. So this traditional education program, where you say that I want to make a radiologist of my son should become radiologist or pathologist, the job won't be there. The radiology will be done by artificial intelligence completely, and that person's decision will be taken by the machine learning. So there are many jobs which are very technology centric are going to take over by automation in future. So what is remaining? Now the point comes what you are talking about, that the emotions cannot come in machine. The emotions will come in art, emotions will come in craft, emotion will come in weaving the design of a product. Emotion will come into the product which have been with the direct human intervention and which are connected with the culture and all. So I see that the designer's role in future shaping is going to be very high, because as I am mentioning you that the technological aspect are going to be taken over by the fourth industrial revolution. The emotional aspect, which are the main ingredients of design, are going to be overpowering in all professions, and people are going to get design, strategic design thinking, because design education is not only art and craft and textile. It allows you to deal with ambiguity. It allows you to investigate into unknown areas. While if engineering you are there is a fixed answer to any problem, or mathematics you say there is a fixed answer to any problem. But in design, you don't know the answer. You are investigating the answer, which you will do, which is the best possible analytically. You will analyze it and see that this is best. It is not that the painting that you have painted it and then you are just saying that this is my expression. No, here the empathy comes in, that you have to really put down yourself in other shoes and then come out with the most logical solution, which was not there earlier.
So what is that environment that this design needs, the culture of education, the design culture of education that needs to be nurtured by design school across the country today?
I think that environment is there in Arch Design School also.
Thank you.
Allowed to take your own approach in ideation or coming it out, not spoon feeding you that this you will do and this is what will come. In fact, the institutions like NID and now yours also is that making a complete human being, not only a professional but complete human being. Take charge of your life, be a responsible person, and look into society, look into technology, and what best you can do for yourself and for society and for the environment. Now let me give you one example there was a guy who was journalist, actually. He was writing in newspapers, and then he said that no, my mind is creative and I want to deal with some ambiguous thing, not just reporting. And NID structure was open enough to take that person in a fashion design. And he joined the fashion design that we called apparel design that time. And he didn't know much because his skill was writing only. And he started developing the skills. And then he became the fashion designers, and he started working in some fashion design company and started using his knowledge. And he was using his knowledge of because he was dealing with journalism, so that knowledge also he brought in fashion and started writing more about fashion and also practicing fashion, so connecting together. Then he said, no, I should do something more, because this education has empowered him to think in unknown areas. And then he went to Infosys. And he joined what you call user interface and user experience design, because the experience part was very strongly embedded in design education. And user, obviously, that empathy which is coming in. And from fashion, he went to the IT firm and went up to the vice president. And vice president, meaning it's a top, because he could think in a very complex situation because of design thinking, and he adjusted himself in that. And then he realized that I have done enough IT, I want to make films. Then he moved to the filmmaking, and then he shifted. So what the design education empowers you to investigate into the areas which are unknown. I have been observing Arch Institution for many, many years, that it allows you to think original. It allows you to really investigate in ambiguity. It allows you to experiment. Experimentation is very, very important. Experiment and get in the space of unknown and take a plunge and have courage to fail and again come and do something. And that's why you see these graduates or whoever have given lectures, and yesterday Ashish, that they have become such a strong design entrepreneurs that they are working with so many industries actually.